right. What's up, everybody? Shawn here with another Live to Roll live. This week we're gonna be talking some travel. So we got Erica here joining us, and we're gonna share a little bit of our experiences and stuff with you guys. So we'll just get a few quick introductions out of the way. My name is Shawn. I'm a C5, C6 quad from a snowboarding accident 18 years ago, as of yesterday.
As of
Actually,
yesterday.
was my
Happy
anniversary.
Health Day, Shawn. What
Yeah,
up?
thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, thanks.
It's
Tom,
always a
go
weird.
ahead, man. What's up?
I said that's always a weird one. Like we talked about it before, but like I never know what to do. Like, do I celebrate? Like, kind of a bad thing happened. Like, I don't know.
It's like a second chance at life because a lot of us could have died in the accidents we had and stuff. So it is just it's
Yeah, that's what I heard a lot of people say. They think of it like a second birthday. I think it's like a good milestone to celebrate. Like, hey, you made another year. You push through. What up, Nicole? Okay, I'm getting sidetracked here. I haven't even introduced myself. What's up, everybody? I'm Tom Conway, C5, C6 quadriplegic, living out here in SoCal. I've been paralyzed for 24 years, and I'm 29 years old. And yeah, let's toss it on over to the guest of the show today. Erica, you might introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, hello. My name's Erica. I am T6, T7 incomplete. I am about 3 years from my injury that happened due to some stab wounds. But I'm really excited to be here and just like chat it up. I've been doing some major traveling lately, so it just is very perfect.
awesome. Yeah,
Awesome.
that was one of the reasons why I wanted to invite Erica. Well, not only that, she's a friend of the show and on the women's disability show and stuff. But she's been traveling all the time. Every time I see on Instagram, she's posting cool ass posts from all this stuff, fun stuff she's doing. So I thought she would be super awesome to share some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's
And
funny. I
I
think the last
personally
time,
haven't left the country. So
I
go
think
ahead,
the
Tom.
last
Sorry.
time we had Erica on too, she brought up all the traveling that she was getting ready to do.
That's
So
right.
it'll be a good follow up for that. So, is there anything else you wanted to touch on? I guess we should maybe thank our sponsors real quick before we dive into the topic. If you want to put those up real
Yes, sir.
quick, big shout out to mobility professionals and urology professionals. It's a rehabilitation equipment specialty company. They can get you wheelchairs, lots of different kind of rehabilitation equipment. The urology professionals, they specialize in catheters and urological medical supplies. If you're here in SoCal, Mobility Pros can be your solution and your resource to getting your wheelchair and some other stuff taken care of. And if you're national, urology professionals or local, urology professionals all over the U.S. though, and they can help you out with your catheter supplies. Um, Incredible service, knowledgeable, and they make it their business to help enable your independence in every way that they can. Um, Anything else you want to add, Shawn?
No, yeah, I mean they're friends of the channel, friends of the community, and they're just really cool companies, really great people. So and great customer service, honestly. So if you guys want to call them, information is down below. Check them out.
Yeah,
A lot of us out here use them.
when we talk about this kind of stuff, it's hard finding individuals that are knowledgeable or understand how important this kind of equipment is to our independence and enabling that in our everyday life. And mobility professionals, urology professionals, they make it their business to understand that and to help facilitate independence in your life in whatever ways they can. So go give them a shout out, check them out. If you think they might be able to help you, and let them know Live Troll sent you.
Yes, sir. All
There you
right.
go.
Thanks for that, Tom. And let's get into some travel topic, I guess here.
Yeah,
Um,
before we jump in though, I just wanted to say two things. I got some construction going on next door. Sorry if it's loud, you guys. I'll try to work that out if it gets too loud. And also, we're talking about travel, and let us know where you guys have been. If you guys have any questions concerning travel, let us know if you've done traveling post injury or if you're planning to. Um, and yeah, we just want to hear from you guys too. Um, and Andrew, yeah, we'll cover cruise ships here in a little while. Make sure to make note, try to get that before you head out.
Yeah, for sure. I actually personally haven't done a cruise, and I've been looking into it. So, one of the things I want to try. Erica, have
Hey,
you before? Have you done cruises?
I have not done a cruise. It's probably on my list. I just feel like cruises, I don't know, they don't captivate me as much, and then the whole thing is like I've never been at sea before like that. So what if I get there and then I'm just like seasick the whole time? I'm like, ugh, I don't know
yeah.
if I'm ready to embark on that adventure yet.
Yeah,
After,
that's
after the whole COVID thing and like the ship getting stuck with all the sick people, I was like, no, that's like making me scared. Like I don't want a Titanic situation or something like that to happen.
uh,
Oh
fair
goodness.
enough. All right,
Yeah,
yeah, so we'll get into that, I guess, a little bit later. So I wanted to ask one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys was just what your favorite way to travel is, like, if or even if you enjoy traveling. You know, some of us might not like it, but if you guys enjoy traveling, and like, what's your favorite way to do it?
Erica, why don't you
Eric,
start?
yeah, Erica, go for it.
I think like the most of the traveling I've done has been like via plane and via car. But I will say plane is a lot. I have like their give and take. Like car, I feel like it's easier. It's just like the transfer to get on and the transfer to get off, you know? But I mean, sitting in a car for long periods of time is not fun on the bum. So it really depends like on how far. And then plane, I feel like there's always like, you know, TSA and then like the transfer onto the aisle chair and all that stuff. So I think like either way there are some difficulties, but I will say the reward is very much worth it. Like I feel like sometimes I have to remember like this is for a vacation. Like you know, I like you have to like mentally prepare and just like be open to you're going to have like obstacles either way. So I wouldn't say one's better than the other. I think it really just depends on where you're going.
Awesome,
Absolutely. Andrew
Tom.
says his favorite is plane, but only first class. Understandable. Um, the cruise ships. I've never been on a commercial flight, believe it or not.
I know,
I
Tom. That's crazy.
I know it's crazy, but hey, that's going to change in a couple months when Live is going national. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Done some traveling like all throughout California, um, Arizona,
Have
Nevada
you
a
done
little bit.
some longer road trips?
Yeah, I've done like 8, 10, 12 hours in the car. It's hard. Uh, it's only been in my, I guess, early in my injury. We did some road trips where I was on the seat. Always been fine with pressure sores and stuff. My mom was awesome, making sure I'm comfy and, it's like shifting my weight regularly. But after that, we had our wheelchair van, and when we would do our long road trips, which we did like every couple months, because I had family in Southern California. I grew up in the Bay. It's like about an 8-hour trip in between, which we would do a couple times a year. Go other places too, go on fishing trips and go up to the snow in Tahoe, Nevada. Um, and usually like the longest was like 8 or 10 hours in the car. Um, and after that, I don't know, it's just being cooped up. Like I wasn't. It's not really that uncomfortable. The van I started like my growth spurt right when we got our van, and we didn't anticipate like the head clearance. So I would have to like duck down a little bit, and not that it was like super uncomfortable. But my favorite way I've traveled, and it was just a short trip, but I really want to do a longer one. Um, and I try to sneak one of those in this year too. Is train. When I took the train trip to San Diego, there and back. It was only 4 hours, but it was a nice little taste of like that kind of travel. And it was super fun, super relaxing, really enjoyable. It's comfy, you can just do whatever. Um, and so I'm really interested in doing a little bit more train traveling. Car, though, I don't mind. Then I want to fly, so I can't really speak to as to whether or not I like it. I've heard some horror stories, but I've heard it's a lot of fun too. And then ultimately rocket ship, you know.
Ultimate.
One of those SpaceX rockets. I want to like hop over to China like in the morning and then like come back to LA in the evening, like get a quick 30-minute rocket launch. But
uh,
that's
is
probably a
that the
decade or two down the line, so we'll see.
awesome? And Celtic Bear in the chat says that he loves the train. Been across the U.S. 4 times, uh, so that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
Amtrak is awesome, and the experience. I have a my girlfriend did a train trip to Oregon. It was like an 18-hour train ride,
Wow,
and that was crazy because she was in her chair the whole time. Now I've done 24 hours, like plus 48 hours in my chair, no problem when I was younger. Now, not advised. Can be super dangerous, really risking pressure sores, other issues. Got to make sure you're moving. These are like my crazier earlier college days, and I was very comfortable in my chair, and confident in my body. That's something that I'm trying to tackle. If I traveled with someone on the train, they could probably help me transfer to a seat or something. If I'm doing a more than a day trip, I want to figure out how I could get in like a little bunk or something to make sure I can do my pressure reliefs. Because it's hard for me to stay in my chair. I still do like 16, 18 hours sometimes, but after that, I'm like, oh, my butt
that's a
needs to go.
long time in a chair, man.
Yeah, that's a long
Uh,
time.
Yeah, I mean, I get up at 5, go to bed sometimes like 1 or 2, and like I'll be in the chair the whole day. Like it's a decent show.
so, Erica, when you're in like a long car ride or on the plane, are you using your cushion under? Do you use a? I
No,
was gonna ask Tom that,
actually,
but
I
I,
have really good sensation, so I know when I'm getting tired. And uh, not a perk of being short is that like if I'm sitting in the airplane and I have my cushion underneath, my
oh,
feet
your
don't
legs.
touch the floor, so they're just like spasming the whole time, and it's just not comfy. So I normally just like sit on like with no cushion. I will hold my cushion at the inside the like inside with me just because I'm scared to like lose it, or like I don't know. I just have this like fear that like something's gonna go wrong. So like all the items I can carry with me, I will carry with me. I will say the car ride, the longest I've done, I went to San Francisco not too long ago. It was 6 hours there, which is like understandable. On the way back, it was like almost 9 hours, so it was ridiculously insane. I will say like the last hour, I felt like I just needed to like roll over all over in the back seat. Like I was just like I'm so tired of sitting. So I think like the last 30 minutes, I did just like hop on my cushion a little bit just to like relieve some of like the also just like stress wise. Cause I feel like it just starts stressing me out. Um, but so far the longest that's probably been the longest because the longest plane ride I've had is like 3 hours in plane, and I feel like that's very tolerable for me at least.
That's
Uh,
honestly about been my longest plane ride too, and it's about as long as I can go. Sorry, Tom. Go ahead. What were you saying?
no, I was just gonna ask. Can you speak to your plane experience a little bit? I've heard a lot of horror stories about uh,
Yeah.
chairs
So
getting
I will say
broken and just
ignorance
like
is bliss.
uncomfortable. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will say ignorance is bliss because my first trip I took, I was only like 3 or 4 months post injury, and I did fly to Cabo, and I was like not ready for what I was expecting, and I probably should have done more research, but I did have a lot of help and I wasn't alone. So I feel like that helped. And then after that trip, I started like because I was only 3 or 4 months, so I didn't really know a lot of people in wheelchairs. And then I started hearing all these horror stories, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this could have happened to me when I went out there. And so now that I know that stuff, I feel like every time I'm taking a trip, so I'm actually taking one in the next 2 weeks, I start to like control my anxiety because I do get very, 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 very anxious, especially the last time I flew, I did my first solo flight like ever. I had never flown by myself anywhere. And of course, why not do it now? So I did that, and that was like very nerve wracking for me because I didn't have anyone else to be like, make sure they do this right, or like like hand me this, or it did feel like a little bit more anxious. But it went completely fine. I will say that the experience of flying to Mexico with Mexican Airlines is a lot easier than flying nationally, at least from my experience. I feel like
Really?
they're a lot more they're like not scared to get sued, so like they're like way more helpful and just like will like lift me if I need it. Well, like they're not, they don't have, I mean they do have protocol, but they're not scared to go beyond protocol, which I think is like amazing. And I feel like especially when you're flying on your own, it's so needed. As comparison to when I flew to Washington, it was like minimal assistance, you need to figure it out. I will say my stewardesses flying to Washington, I got billions of "what happened to you" questions, and "are you sure you can't walk?" and like a bunch of stuff that I feel like I've talked about this before, but I think it's an American thing that we feel like very entitled to information. So that kind of like threw me off, and I was kind of like, oh, like I was not expected to get like attacked millions of thousands of miles in the air, like I wasn't expecting that throughout my flight. But I will say, like, in comparison to my few national flights and my international flights have been a lot smoother and more enjoyable for sure.
That's
That's
interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
It makes sense that there. I mean, I have encountered in just a lot of industries, where individuals working feel like they aren't allowed to do something because that's what they were told, and like they can only operate within certain parameters. I'm sure like TSA and like airplane people are definitely like under very very strict regulation when it comes to like handling individuals with disabilities to mostly, like you said, protect their liability to not get sued, because a lot of people are looking to profit off of that. So culturally, like internationally, like generally, it's interesting to like know that there are like places where they might be a little bit more free to operate, and assist without fear of backlash like that. I haven't heard that take before, but that's cool to know. But how about your chair? It was like any issues with equipment, like being damaged, like
No, actually,
being stored and like
actually, I will say, the only flight that my chair got like somewhat damaged, they just broke my cup holder. So they must have slammed it pretty hard enough to like break my cup holder off. Was actually my national flight with Alaska Airlines, and with my international flights, nothing has ever happened to my chair. They actually will pick it up instead of like dragging it. And the few national flights I've had, like I have to remind them like, please don't drag it, you're gonna mess up the brakes, like please take the brakes off. Like I feel like I have to do a lot more like teaching with my national flights than I do with my international flights. I don't know if it's like just company policies or stuff like that happens, but I didn't really notice it at first until after a couple of flights you start to notice like major differences. And another one would be like, you kind of mentioned like TSA and stuff. It really depends on what kind of person you get, because I remember the first flight I took, I was so scared, and the lady that did my check, she was so unbelievably rude. She kept saying over and over again, "Are you sure you can't stand up? Are you sure you can't stand up?" And I feel
oh,
like that doesn't bug me, but if I have to tell you 3 or 4 times that I cannot walk, not only do I feel like it aggravates me, but I feel like it kind of dings me. Like it kind of hurts. Like I shouldn't have to be saying this out loud multiple times, you know?
well, it's
So
insulting because she's essentially
she
like
forced
accusing
me to
you.
take,
I was just gonna say it's
yeah,
like
and then she like,
insulting, like to accuse you of not being disabled as you like claim to be. Like, what is that, right? Like,
yeah, and she kept making comments like, "Well, I just feel like you're too young," or like, like, and I'm like,
I've got that.
I just like, I feel like I pick and choose my battles, and I say this often, but I'm not gonna make a scene in an airport and get like banned from flying. So she kept going off and off, and I was just ignoring her at this point. And then I think that triggered her even more. So she was like, "And you need to take off your shoes," and I was like, "I like, are you sure? Like, I don't see the reason." And she like took off my shoe and my sock. Like I was so like I felt
Wow.
so dehumanized because then everyone's staring at you like, oh, she has something, like, like I'm at that point I was like literally like I was so scared, and my mom was like, we didn't know if this was normal or not, so like how do you even complain when you don't know if this is okay? And so after that flight, I remember I took another flight like shortly right after. And when I got there, the lady, she was so nice. She was like, oh, you don't have to lean forward if you can't. Like, let me just get in there. She's like, don't take your shoes off. I just need to swab the bottom. And
Yeah.
I literally wanted to like hunt down the other lady and see if she was at that airport to just like scream at her. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, this whole time she was being so rude for no freaking reason, lying to me about her policies when she was just like taking her ableism out on me. And so now I feel like that I have a little bit more experience, and I know like they can't force me to take my shoes off. They can't force me to like get out or move in painful positions. If I say it hurts, like they just need to respect it. I don't have to take my jacket off if I don't want to. Like if I can't lift my arms, like they should just be able to wand and swab and do all these extra, like they have extra things they can do for that. So
Yeah,
now after I learned that, I just feel like it's just good to know and like just to empower yourself and prepare, because like I said, the first flight I took, I was like 3-4 months injured, not prepared, just kind of threw myself in there. And so I did have like more negative experiences as opposed to like any of my other flights. But yeah, definitely I feel like it really just depends on who helps you. And normally the airlines, like, you don't have to pay extra to like reserve a seat. I don't ever pay because they have to adjust it when I get there anyways. But I will get people to be like, well, how close up do you want to sit? And I'm like, listen, lady, get me as close and as farthest to the aisle as I can get. Like, this is not like a I want a favorite thing. Like, this is like your guys are gonna have to carry me longer. So like this is
yeah,
for them. I could be carried to the last row. I could care less. So I think it really does depend like who helps you, and like you can tell right away who has been like around like disabled people and knows that like some of us look perfectly fine. Like I don't really have like I feel like I look like I could just get up, and I understand that because like my legs aren't
yeah,
really dystrophied and stuff. So I feel like they look at me and they're like, oh, this girl, she's like totally faking it, or like totally milking all these privileges like that they're given. And so I think it really just depends on like who you get, and like I would
yeah.
say don't be discouraged if you have one bad experience because it's bound to happen, but don't let that like limit you from like, living your best life and traveling.
No, definitely. I think like majority of the time it's just like miserable people either having a really bad day or just like have a really like bad job or are really bad at it, and they end up taking it out on individuals until they get fired or whatever, right? Um, but I found generally people can be very helpful and kind, and as long as you are willing to communicate like honestly with them, like that's what you get back, and it's all good. I have spoken to one individual who's a flight attendant, and I asked him about that experience with like individuals with disabilities. Like, have you gotten people you've had a hard time with, or like how has that like interaction gone? Like with someone who's like maybe been struggling with flying or the whole experience. And what he said was that, you know, it's awkward and hard sometimes. You have to like go up and ask them, like, can you, get off the plane like under your own power, and stuff when clearly, they probably can't. Like maybe you're afraid to be ableist or like insulting them or something. But that individual is, conscious of themselves and like the wanting to like be as respectful as possible to the individual. Now that may not be the case when you get a different flight attendant or a different kind of security person that's helping you. So just be mindful. Um, I always say kill them with kindness if you come across somebody like
Yeah,
that.
and I will yeah, I definitely want to add like also like prep. Like I feel like in order I feel like this in general applies to like my disability as a whole. Like I've learned like the more time I give myself for anything, or like the less pressure I give myself, or like if I just make my life easier, even if there are little roadblocks along the way, it won't bring me down as bad. You know what I mean? So like what I'm meaning to that, like in terms of flying for me, like they say be there 2 hours ahead. I'm parking in the parking lot like 3 hours ahead because I'm like, I know that I still have to go and get like my ticket changed. I still have to let them know about the aisle chairs. Sometimes that's been locked up in storage for like 3 weeks. Like, like I just feel like you just need to prep for these things if you don't want to like have any more like I feel like just like biting it before it bites you, and like so I always like to be there super early. I only fly out of two airports as of right now, and I will pay more to fly out of Ontario because it is my absolute favorite airport. I've never had
Ontario.
an issue there. Yeah, it's so small that like I wheel in and drop off my luggage, and then I just like hop on the elevator. The TSA's right there, and then my window's right there. Like it's like less strain on my body. Like I'm not like rushing and like pushing myself with my suitcase. Like it's just like I just always say like set yourself up for success because like I just feel like it makes it easier, Then I'm like there, and if I'm hungry, I'll get a snack, or like I'll just wait, watch a movie, and then it depending on the airline, you're either first to board or last to board. I always now that I have my Foley and I don't need to get up at all for the restroom, I prefer the window because that way people are not crossing over me or like stepping on me like to get over, or I don't have butts in my face when they're literally trying to get out and I can't get up and I'm just like like so I will
Yep.
like I will ask like I you can give me whatever seat, but can I just get the window seat? So like and I'll tell them why. Like I'm not just like I just want to look at the pretty view. Like no, like there's a reason for it. And most of the times, like you mentioned, the airline, like if you're nice and you actually give them reasons like why, they will totally be like, yeah, let me see what I can do, or like sorry, like I can only get you a middle seat, and I'm like, okay, that's okay, like leave me on the edge, or it's just communication goes a long way. And then also just prepping for like my suitcase might fall off, or like I might drop something out of my lap, or like my tickets. I have like this purse that I bought that's like perfect for flying because it sits right here and it doesn't hit the wheel, and I can fit like passport, like I can fit so many things in that little pouch, and that way everything's just like, oh bam, here, like here's this,
Yeah.
here's that. Like I just feel like there are little things that you can do to like make it a little easier. So
Well, you said
despite
it.
maybe any little roadblocks, you're not as like fluttered or like overwhelmed.
Yeah. I want to do a quick little pause from the travel topic for a second, just to thank a couple of the people in the comments. First shout out, Benny Boy. Sorry, Nikki, I think you beat you to it. Gave us a super chat, and then he gave us another one. So big thank you to Benny Boy, and then of course, huge friend of the show, family member of the show, um, one of the Chi-Town twins, Miss Nikki Lawrence. Thank you so much for the $20. We appreciate all your support um, and hanging out with us today. And the donation, you're awesome. You and Ashley are both awesome. Um, and yeah, what up, Hip Crip? I just wanted to shout out Hip Grip real quick. He did an awesome bathroom remodel I saw on his Instagram. So if you haven't followed Hip Grip, make sure to. He makes some cool content, does a radio show, just some other stuff. Just an awesome guy, doing cool stuff and showing it off. So go and check him out. Celtic Bear, appreciate you, man, and all your commentary and feedback in the chat, and everybody. Okay, I think we're good to go back. Um, but going back to what Erica said, that's kind of like the biggest like life tip, but definitely travel tip. When you're going on the road, there's no going back usually, especially if you're going international. Not going to be able to do a quick turnaround and go get something you left behind. So preparedness and preparation is key.
Yep.
Traveling with, like she said, a Foley catheter to make the whole bathroom situation easier on a flight can be super helpful in situations like that. Making sure you have suitable catheter supplies for any kind of situation or scenario you can imagine. I mean, I won't carry like way too many cads in my bag, just like going out for a few hours. of, thinking some post-apocalyptic thing might like pop up and I'm stranded in a mall fighting off zombies for a couple weeks. I want to make sure I have some catheters, darn it. But you know, preparedness, like prepare for eventualities that you know like maybe won't happen. Like the saying, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. It's like a big, big thing when it comes to like stuff like that. So travel smart. There's amazing kinds of bags and carry-on things and stuff that Eric was talking about that can carry a ton of stuff with you on your person to make your ride more comfortable. I have had well, not had, but heard, talked to a lot of quadriplegic individuals specifically that like bring their cushion on the flight as well, just to provide like a more comfortable way to sit and not risk pressure sores, especially for longer flights. Only thing to consider of that eventuality is elevation change might cause like expansion of like the air and pressurized
Yeah.
cushion to make them
If you
pop.
have an air cushion like a Rojo like mine, you have to check that before and after.
Yeah, check the air pressure. Make sure you're not risking popping and
But you
ruining your
actually
trip.
even should check the air pressure, even if you're not sitting on it. If you just have it on, just being on the plane, it's going to change that pressure. So anytime you fly, you want to check your cushion. So go ahead,
And
Tom.
I want
Just
to know, you mentioned like prepping and packing. So I've always been a habitual overpacker. Like ever since I can remember, I'm the one like carrying like luggage for like a 3-day weekend, and my cousins hate me for that. But now I feel like it's that, but on steroids. But I feel like if I'm flying nationally, like when I went to Washington, I didn't overpack as much because I'm like, I can run to a Target, or like I like it's so much more accessible to find certain things, like even just like going to a medical store, or I know like the nearest hospital, like it's not too much of a worry. I will say that flying internationally can get a little dicey sometimes. So I have not flown internationally, I want to say, more than like 2 weeks in my whole life, and the last trip I took was like over almost over a month. So like it was
wow.
definitely cutting it close, and I was definitely taking some scares here and there for like medical supplies. Yes, was I able to find everything? Yes. Was I able to find everything that I exactly needed? No. Did I have to like work with certain things? Sure. Yeah, but I will say like definitely internationally, overpacking is the way to go, because you just don't know what other countries like their medical levels are. I know like for me personally, when I flew to Mexico, the bigger cities, they have a bunch of stuff, they have a bunch of pharmacies, they have like kind of at the same level. Smaller towns, yeah, you're never
Yeah.
gonna find anything. You will find medication, you will not find supplies. So like that's definitely like a learning curve for me. This next trip I'm taking is gonna be for almost 2 months. So
Wow.
I have completely overpacked in medical supplies, and now I know like what I can kind of find there. And I have already like last time I went, I knew I was gonna kind of like be coming back soon, so I kind of like started hunting like and buying doubles of stuff. So this time I, I know what I'm gonna need to take, but yeah, international is a whole nother worry. It's a whole nother monster. It is so much fun. I freaking love it, but it will say like it's scary on the medical aspect. Especially now like that I have my Foley in, because I feel like before that I didn't ever need any medical supplies like ever.
Yeah.
So like I feel like it was just like, sure, let's go, and like not worry about it. And now it's like, wait, let me pre-order this and make sure I have extras of these. And yeah, so I definitely feel like it's another
So
monster.
how often do you change your Foley catheter then? So you'll
So
have to
that's a good
change it on a two
question.
month trip, right? Because
Yeah, so I have gone with it because of like urology issues. Like I think we talked about this the last urology video. So I still don't have a urologist, and I'm just like going to the ER whenever I feel like it. So I think I'm gonna be able to just need it changed once out there, and I already know where to go. They actually have a spinal cord specialist hospital that I've been to before for like MRIs and stuff a couple years ago. And it's like super state of the art. They actually even work with like big hospitals like Casaclina and stuff. And it's actually like an hour away from where I'm gonna be staying. So I plan to get my fully changed there. Um,
Nice.
don't really know how it works, like all the kinks of it. Obviously, when I get there, I'm gonna like do research and like figure it out. But I
Yeah,
mean, I don't have insurance in Mexico, but it is just like I'm just gonna pay out of pocket.
yeah.
But you would pay here is astronomical for
Yeah, the
something like
prices
that
are.
there. So I don't think it should be. Yeah, so I don't think it should be like a big issue.
Yeah, that's really
Nice.
interesting. The supply issue is one that I've heard a lot of, especially quadriplegics talk about for like longer trips internationally. I've heard, I mean, I know that you can speak to your DME. Um, Speaking of DMEs, the show is sponsored by urology professionals and mobility professionals. Uh, Give
Okay.
one more quick shout out. They do this kind of supplies and can help with issues and eventualities like this. And it's interesting. I think I might pick Dean's brain about it the next time I end up talking to him when it comes to this topic, because I know I've spoken to individuals before that have gotten like a surplus of supplies because they spoke to their DME, they spoke to their insurance. They're like, "Hey, I'm going out of town. For the next, I have extra supplies because I like store them and hoard them and have for years. So like, I just give the extra to my parents to like take to the house, and we just have Fort Knox worth of self cath supplies in case
Right.
the world ever does end. And so I always have like a surplus I could tap into if I needed to, but not everybody has that. I think there are systems in place that maybe tougher with certain insurance, certain companies to like do that. But I have, I think, heard at least one individual speak of, hey, I'm going out of town for a few months. They got a few months worth of supplies, and they actually sent it ahead, meaning like they shipped it to where they were going because it was going to be impossible to travel with the amount of catheter supplies that they needed for their like few month trip to Africa, which is where they were going. And that was what they had to do. But that's cool and creative and crazy. They had their place
Yeah.
at Thanksgiving. They like sent it a few weeks ahead. Made sure it was delivered. Had someone that could check and they accept the supplies, and then they could travel securely, knowing that everything they might need is already there waiting. And I think that's such a creative, cool, awesome, amazing solution. And a lot of forethought, a lot of planning, and a little bit of extra cost, but hey, like, that's what it takes. That's what we're doing. Like that's the life we're living, baby. You know?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
That's
and I feel like just reaching out, like you mentioned, to your doctor or like any kind of resource. So like for me, this trip I'm taking, I'm going to go visit family. So I send them pictures like this is what I need. This is like what you can get for me. They will go to the pharmacy, ask, they will get supplies sent to that pharmacy, and then they'll let me know like, hey, they only had this many or that, so I know exactly how much items I'm counting on when I get there, and then that makes me know how much to plan for when I'm leaving. It's like also like overpacking is great. Yeah, I don't want to use it, but I'm like I also don't want to be taking like a bajillion medical supplies and like no clothes and like no other items. Like I feel like it's the give and take of having a disability. Like I still want to be a regular human and overpack my own stuff, not medical
yeah.
supplies. So yeah.
I mean, I have like a certain sense of security with at least like my catheter stuff. Like I know worst case scenario, like I could cut open one of the subcath bags and reuse that catheter, just boil it. I mean, even if I'm not doing that every time, and it could last me a while as long as I had access to like hot water, warmer than 212 degrees. Um, but like that's always something that's kind of hindered me a little bit from like longer, more international trips is like that. But I'm not letting that get in my way now. Like I'm gonna find a way to solve the problem. Whether it's like what you did, find like a spinal cord injury center where I can go and get the supplies that I need, or go and get what I need done, and figure it out that way, or do what I heard before and just like try to like over plan and send forward supplies or figure out how I can travel with enough to make sure like I feel like I have security, for however long I'm going. I mean, that's like the tough thing is I really want to travel, but I don't want to do it if I know I'm not going to be comfortable, uh, like wherever I'm going.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think I think it's also like baby steps because the first time I traveled internationally was like to Cabo at a resort that is like basically like could be in Florida. Like, it was like completely accessible, state of the
yeah,
art. Like, so I didn't feel like I had an accessible shower, an accessible bathtub. Like, so like there was ramps everywhere. Like there was no insane slopes, and we didn't really leave the resort. So I want to say like I was traveling internationally, but basically staying nationally. And then I have gradually, like, okay, next time I go, like, let's actually go to, like, Mexico, And then it was like,
yeah,
oh, crap, like, not accessible anywhere. Like, it was like a bit of a shock, but it was like gradual. Like, I wasn't going out every day. It was more like, okay, maybe in the evening for a little, and we're only going to stay in one area, and then I get in the car and I go. And
yeah,
then now, as I've gotten more and more comfortable, and also like as my independence has grown, because I think it really matters like where you're at. I can't do wheelies. I'm sorry, but I'm like a baby when it comes to like any sort of dips like that, or like ramps. Like I'm like, no, someone push me, because the ramps in Mexico are built like basically walls. So like, yeah, I will say like it's gradual baby steps. Like if I were to have taken my first trip where I'm going next month, I would have been scared to death, never wanted to go back, and like probably just like hated the experience. um so I think it's like baby steps. That's like, think the only plus about traveling nationally, even though you're gonna get some inaccessibility. But like when I went to Washington, there was nothing I couldn't do or nowhere I couldn't go on my own. Like if I really wanted to, I could have just rented a car and like explored the city all by myself. But in Mexico or in a lot of international, like Italy, like cobblestones is not the bee's knees.
Cobblestones suck.
So yeah, so cobblestone sucks. I get really bad spasms. Like I said, I don't know how to do wheelies. I get stuck everywhere. I'm like flying out left and right. So like I have adapted to that. Like in Mexico, recently, this last time I went, I bought a power chair for like dirt cheap, and it was like brand new, and it's so cool because it folds in half like a medical chair would, so you can like pack it in the trunk. So it's like super cool, also learning what other technologies are out there that are not like industrial money hungry insurance ran by.
yeah,
So that was kind of nice. That I used to get around in like the cities that I have traveled in that are like outside of my family's town. So like that would be like where everything's more old school and colonial and like cobblestone, or like the ramps are pretty bad. Like with that chair, I'm able to get basically anywhere, and it's small enough to where I still fit in doorways. So that was like a super cool assistant that I did need, that I'm kind of glad I took it up upon, and I'm probably going to bring it back sometime this year just to see. Like I feel like I don't need it here in the States, but I feel like it would be cool to have, like just as
we,
an option, since
we
I
have
already
a
have
friend,
it. But I
we have a friend of the
were you
show,
saying something?
Tammy. I don't know her last name, but she goes by like the Resilient Quad. She's got a
Yeah,
YouTube
resilient.
channel and
Oh
Instagram,
yeah,
um, and
yeah,
she's been on the show before and the women's show before. So definitely friend, and she's got her own quadcast, which is awesome. Any like ladies specifically, it's like all about ladies, lady quad. So go check it out. But I think she's doing GoFundMe right now, and she actually just got a travel chair. It's just like that, a foldable power chair. It's like a lot easier to travel with. So I was kind of just like following her story because she was posting a bunch of information about it. And also she's got a GoFundMe. So I don't know if like Shawn can maybe like post her social link. You guys should go check it out and maybe donate and help support her getting this. But she is doing something similar, getting a foldable power chair to make traveling easier. She had a very bad experience where her power chair got really horribly damaged. Um,
Yeah, I saw that. I
What's the
know, poor
solution?
Tammy.
Especially for like, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I want to let you talk in, but just what you said, getting around unfamiliar areas for manual chair users too, like Shawn trying to be all super quad over here, super cool. You know, sometimes um, getting into power chairs, especially for longer distances and unfamiliar areas, can be in your advantage to make the experience a little bit easier, more comfortable. You know, because after all, hopefully when you're traveling, you're vacationing. That's what it's all about, being comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. That's
Where did you get this chair, Erica?
I got it at a supply store in Mexico, and it was like only like, I mean, only it's a lot of money, but I feel like compared to what I would have paid for here, it was like 900 and like some change.
Yeah, no, incredible.
And it's pretty, yeah, the battery lasts like 24 hours, and I have definitely put it to the test because I went to, it's San Miguel de Allende, and it's like super famous in Mexico, but it's like old colonial, and it's basically on a hill. So my power chair was working like full max the whole time, and it just made everything a breeze. I will say, like, learning new mobility devices, I sucked at the power chair. I want to say I rammed one car, and I felt so bad because I dinged it, and the guy was right there, and I was like, I am so so sorry, and he was like, it's okay, like, and I'm like, okay, like maybe I should not be as fast. Like, I thought I was like, oh, this is easy, and I freaking rammed into his truck, and I felt so bad. But he was probably like, oh, poor little girl, and I was like, please don't charge me, like, but yeah, I did feel like I didn't think it was be that hard. Man, power chair is like, I'm so used to, like, I want to turn and I'm just like, it's done, but like power chairs is like, you're like Tetris playing the whole time, and then on top of that, it was like slope. So then you have to increment the speed as like this. So it was. I was like, I was stressed.
This was like more
Um.
than 20 years ago, but when I first got my power chair and I was at home, I mean, in our first house like I ever grew up in, before we moved, my mom had this little tiny red Chevy car that she drove around in. And I was like brand new to my chair and I was outside like just messing around with my brother. It was like not too long after my injury. And I crashed into the side of my mom's car and I just like fucked up her door so bad, like bad scratches. I dented it. It was gnarly, and I was so afraid to tell her. I was like so, but I was a baby boy. She didn't get too mad at me. But oh man, I learned really quick, like the power of the power wheelchair. I was like, I gotta be careful in this bad boy because like you can do some damage
Oh
without
yeah,
really.
one thousand percent. I felt so bad for the dude, and I was more embarrassed and mortified that he actually watched me ram into his car. Because I honestly would have just done a drive by, like I would have just left, but I totally got caught. So
That's
yeah.
like
But I will
Awesome.
say, like, so traveling wise, like, in like we have like, well, because I'm visiting family, but when we go to like these trips that are like out of the town, we will rent like these urban, like, what they look like, not mini school buses, but I don't know if you've seen them, like, like they're like little party bus looking buses, and they like
yeah,
sit like 16,
you
18
can
people.
stand up in the back and stuff. Like it's tall enough for you to stand in, right? Generally.
Yeah, so the only thing I will say, like, with any, I feel like with anything, but especially with traveling, you really have to be comfortable in your body, because I get tossed around a lot. Like, people will just be like, "Oh, like, let's just carry you," or like, "Let's carry you in the chair," and then, like, so you're figuring things out as you go. And I feel like if you're a person that's like kind of like scared, or like you get like really nervous about that stuff, I will say like doing international may be a little too hard, just because I my goal is to get there. And if they like, I we went one time to Guadalajara, which is like a big city, and they have like these horse carriage looking things. They give you a tour of the whole city, and then the guy's like explaining everything to you. And I just like curiously like got there to see like I wanted to get close to see like how big the jump was. And the guy was like, "Do you want to get on?" I was like I don't know. Like I was still like I want to say like a year out, so I was like, no, it's okay." And he's like, "Oh no, like don't worry about it. Like yeah, we can get you on." And I was not expecting for this man to just like literally toss me over his back. Like he literally threw me over like a sack of potatoes, and then like gently put me in the carriage. He was like, "Do you want your chair up here?" Or like, and I was still like, "Yo, you just like carried me in front of everyone. Like the whole line is just like staring at me. Like, and I was like, oh, that made me like a little nervous, but now I feel like I'm so comfortable and I'm just like, yes, who can carry me? Like, or is there anyone that can help? Like, because normally it's like my dad and like my cousins and stuff. So, like, he still needs a little bit extra help. So, but I will say, like, in Mexico, it's just no one's scared to help. Like, no one's like, I'm going to sue you if you drop me kind of culture there. So, I will go to restaurants, and if there's like 4 or 5 steps to get in, like the waiters are the ones that are like, "No, sir, like we got it," and they're like, "Oh, like do 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 do," like picking me up on my chair, or like they'll ask like, "Where do I grab you?" or like, "How does this work?" And like, but it makes me feel, oddly enough, it's like obviously I'm not being included because of the infrastructure, but like societal wise I feel so included because there's like no way that they're willing to like make me feel left out. You know what I mean? Like I've I've gone to places where I don't fit in the restroom, and they've literally had like waiters come and like stand at the front of like the entrance of like wherever I fit as to where the restroom goes, and they'll like block off with like, one time they had like guys bring tablecloth and they made a little curtain for me like to do whatever I needed to do. And like, so it's just stuff like that that I feel like, wow, like they really want me here and they want me to feel comfortable, and despite the infrastructure not being welcoming, the people are very 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 welcoming and like very ready to help. So which makes up for like, but it's very cool, very very unique experience.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm always open to help generally. Um, I have a strong voice and like a confidence that like if someone is helping me in the wrong way and I don't feel comfortable, like I can generally communicate that to them. That's like always my worry in a situation like that where like their intention is good, but they still maybe don't understand how my body moves or how I move or how I work, and they go and do something that sets off my spasms or like hurts me. And that is always just kind of my concern. I usually can tell when someone um, just like by briefly talking to them whether or not they have enough experience or ability to move me safely. And I have had like strangers help me. I mean, this crazy story, my mom and I were talking about the last show because we were talking about like times we had fallen out of our chair. And this one time, I was visiting Northridge to look at the college that I ended up going to, and she threw her back out, and I fell out of my hotel bed, transferring to my shower chair, and she couldn't lift me. Like I was stuck on the floor, and she had to go downstairs and ask some stranger construction men who were working on like a remodel at the time to come and help lift me off the floor. Now, like that is just the nature of the beast. Like if you are comfortable, with that kind of help, it can be super beneficial and helpful in certain situations. Having the attitude like Erica, like who can pick me up? Like who can help me out? Like I'm ready to go. Like let's go. Like that's awesome. And it can be really beneficial. My advice in that regard, though, is just what I said. Make sure you understand yourself. Make sure you understand how you need to be moved. Make sure you move a certain way or someone moves you a certain way. The repercussions of that, be it spasms and stuff. Make sure that person is moving you knows that if you start to spaz, like you're okay, like you're not seasoned, like what to do in those situations, stuff like that. Um, and yeah, just make sure you can communicate your needs effectively. That's
Yeah,
probably like
I
important.
agree. It's advocation 100%. Like, I'm bossy make bossy pants when people are helping me because I don't really ever accept help. So when I accept it, I feel like you need to help me a certain way. Like, you're not just gonna pick me up like however, like if I'm getting picked up by two people, it's like, well, this is the fireman lift. Like, you hook under my
Yeah,
arms and then the other person grabs my, like, I feel like you can't expect people to read your minds either.
yeah,
So I feel like if someone is helping me, like, I will say, because I do spasm a lot, I'm like, oh, if my legs move, it's okay. Or like, if I start shaking, you're not hurting me. Like, because
yeah,
I feel like I also put myself in the other role, and I'm like, well, if I was helping someone and they look like they weren't mobile and then they start shaking, it's like, oh my God, something's wrong. Like,
yeah,
I feel like it's a very natural and normal response. But to me, since me and my family were so immune, it's like, oh, whatever. Like, sometimes I forget, like, that matters. So, yeah, like you said, like, 1000%, like, you need to feel comfortable and also, like, just advocate if there's a special way you want to be held, if, like, and if not, and if, like, they're like, oh, that sounds like too much, I'm like, okay, that's fine, I don't need to get in, and I'll find somewhere else to go eat, or I'll find something else to do, or whatever. Like, I feel like my options are not limited, and I don't really try and be like, oh, well, that sucks, like, I couldn't do that. It's like, no, like, let's see what else I can do, or like, let's see what else I can find.
definitely. To answer one of
That's a
our
fact.
questions real quick, Hip Grip, we talked about train travel earlier. I've done small trip. I know individual who's done more, and then here in the chat we got our buddy Celtic Bear, who's done some Amtrak traveling too, which he talked about earlier in the episode. So you can jog on back, give that part a re-listen. I wish I had a timestamp for you, but yeah, definitely train is a awesome, awesome way to travel. One that I've only done a little bit, but I'm looking to do more, and speak to some other individuals who are a little bit more experience. But my experience with Amtrak has been freaking awesome. All the Amtrak people have been dope. Like it's easy to find information online. Like I've called ahead, like for my San Diego trip, just to make sure that all the stations were accessible. They even went as far as to, like, make sure that there was like an attendant at the station to assist, like getting on and off. Like really crazy lengths, which like I've not heard airlines or other modes of travel be as um, functional and inclusive and willing to meet you more than halfway. So shout out to Amtrak. At least that's been my experience. Um, I've also been kind of curious about Greyhound. Like I wouldn't mind doing like a bus trip somewhere. Uh, but again, I don't know how that would work with like cathing and stuff like that. Because I know I can use the bathroom on a train because they set them up so you can. I've done it before, no problem. But I don't know how that would work with the bus.
We actually had a couple questions earlier in the chat, which one of them was about emptying leg bag on flight. And I know for me personally, Erica can answer it too, but for me personally, oops, wrong one. There we go. I can't do it myself just because I can't hold the bottle or whatever, but I have had help, somebody holding a bottle, and I just emptied into a bottle when needed to on the plane. But typically, like, this probably isn't the healthiest habit, but I will not drink a ton of water before a flight usually. Like the few hours leading up to it, I'm somewhat dehydrating myself so that I hopefully don't have to pee. But and then I empty the bag right before also. So Erica, I don't know
Anybody
any
that's
other.
throwing shade at that, like I think it's BS because as long as you're not dehydrating yourself all the time, it's okay. Like
Yeah,
people do this stuff out of utility all the time. Drink a little bit less to make sure you don't have to use the bathroom because it's not going to be accessible. I think that's like well to do, like within certain reason. Just don't make it a habit to chronically dehydrate yourself so you don't have to pee.
yeah.
Yeah,
Erica,
for
did you have any
me,
other?
yeah, I will take at least two empty water bottles and put them in like my carry-on or like my back. I normally take a backpack. And I will get asked at TSA like, what is this for, or can you throw this away? And I'm just honest. I'm like, oh, well, I needed to empty out my leg bag when I'm on the flight. and then they obviously don't know what a leg bag is. And like sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I'll pull up my pants, and I'm like, and then they look at it and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, like you're okay. Like, I'm like, I feel like at this point it's just honesty, like, or like I will say that I will wait, like, even if I know I'm a little full, but they haven't turned the lights off, I will wait because then I always get, if someone's sitting next to me and I don't know who they are, they're always like, what are you doing? Or they're trying to stare, or like then it makes me feel a little uncomfy. So I will wait until like the lights are off, and then I'm just like cross my leg over, open up my empty water bottle, open up the leg bag. Or this last time I flew to Mexico, me and my dad were super late on our flight, which I don't recommend. So we got on and I hadn't emptied out my leg bag, and I was already full when I got on the plane. So I was like, shit, like, and I didn't have a water bottle, so I asked the stewardess, because they sell water and stuff. I was like, can I get 2 empty water bottles? Like, she was kind of like, and I was like, oh, I just need to empty out like my leg bag. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, I mean, COVID, you're not supposed to give it. They have like all these policies for COVID, but I was like, I like made it sound so dramatic. I'm like, well, I can die because it's like super full, and like it wasn't super full, but it was full. And she's like, oh no, yeah, like take. How many do you need? And I was like, just give me 2 water bottles and I'm good. So I emptied out with one, and then I saved the other one, and then like that way, because I also like to empty it right before I get off the plane, because then they throw me in the aisle chair and my legs are like moving everywhere. So I just feel like I like to be empty just in case it like happens to pop off, or I don't know, I'm just like super paranoid about that. So yeah, so I've learned to live a little around it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's like traveling and flying is not gonna be the perfect experience, but I feel like as long as I'm not getting like a disease or like, it's just, that's kind of what I've done to make it work.
I mean, how many people pee in bottles on road trips? I think every
Yeah.
human being that's ever taken a road trip in their,
Yeah,
like it's the same flipping thing. Like we're just not peeing in the bottle. In fact, it maybe is less gross because like we're just emptying from one bag to
yeah,
another.
I
Like I don't think it's that
yeah, and
weird
I
at
think
all.
also like being lighthearted about it, because like I'm gonna expose my cousin's boyfriend right now, but when I first got my Foley bag, only like my girl cousins knew, and I was like, I would go to the restroom and do it. Like I feel like I was a little bit more embarrassed.
Yeah.
After a couple months, that embarrassment completely flew out the door. So like I'm not gonna go all the way over there when there's like all these empty water bottles from like parties around me. So I'm like, nope. So he has this ongoing joke that he's like, oh, Erica's special apple juice, because I fill up the water bottles and I just will just throw them away or whatever. And so like he says like, oh yeah, that's like my special apple juice or whatever. So I feel like there's humor in it, and like I don't feel like embarrassed about it or uncomfortable anymore. Like it's just, that's how I pee, and oh well, like,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I'd say, I mean, like, people who ask me questions now might be afraid because I'm like, will overshare too much because I'm just like, screw it now, I don't care, like it is what it is. Um, I think that can be like really good mentality to have, especially when it comes to like more embarrassing stuff like that. I mean, dealing with like airlines and stuff sometimes like the vanity can be like an issue. It is hard and it's a little bit embarrassing, but if you don't have to worry about that side of it, like you can just be honest, like all your explanations, like here's just how it is, like this is what I got to do. Because it's something that shouldn't be shameful. It's something that shouldn't be embarrassing. It's just like
Exactly. And
everybody's gonna be
it
like it's just like a bodily function we all have. So like it's just maybe a little bit different for you. So what, you know?
exactly, it should not be shameful at all. And I feel like when I'm not shameful about it, then they kind of are like, I feel like I don't get that response to, as if I was like whispering and like nervous about it. Then they're kind of like, oh, like it's bad. But I'm not shameful about it. I'm like, oh, I just need to like empty out my leg bag and like pee in the water bottle and you can throw it away. And they're like, because I'm not making it seem like it's a big deal. They're like, oh, okay, sure. How many do you need? Like I feel like it, like body language is a conversation is itself. You know what I mean? So I feel like that also matters.
And Celtic Bear earlier said, cover up with a blanket. Like that's such a really like awesome smart solution. I've done that before on certain instances. Like where I just did not have
So,
access to a bathroom. I was getting dyslexic. Like there was a bunch of people around. I just like covered up with a blanket and a cat right under the blanket. Nobody saw. Like if they wonder what the hell I was doing, hey, I'm cold. Don't worry about it. Uh, that can
that
be a really simple, easy solution to
and
just cover up.
that's pretty much what like traveling with rugby. There's usually multiple of us in chairs on the same flight. And a lot of the guys do cath. Like I've sat next to our friend Dell, who's been on the show before, and Dell always brings a hoodie with him everywhere, and he just throws the hoodie over his lap, and he can cath right under the hoodie, and he'll just be
Yep.
sitting there like you don't even know what's going on. Like he's so slick about it. In fact, he cathed while he was on the show with us. He was like, "You guys know I cathed back like 20 minutes ago." Like while we were talking, he was cathing one time when he's on the show with us. So some people are just really good at it and can do it super slick and discreet and or empty
Well,
bags, whatever you got
we
to do.
hope he was
But
Catherine. If not, just kind of show. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Dal. I love you,
uh,
man. I'm not throwing shade, just making a joke.
uh,
Um,
but
like,
yeah, I mean that's the
my
typical.
go-to as well. Hip grip. I don't know. Like I always TMI with my crip homies because we're mostly sharing to like benefit each other with our knowledge. So I think it's important to generally not hide details. And like I feel okay talking to all my wheelchair friends because like they understand. They're going through it too. Day to day, same as me. So very often those like you guys are the people I feel good and okay talking to no matter what. But now with like ABs, they ask me questions and stuff. Like I don't know, I just have gotten desensitized to it. Like I was embarrassed when I was a kid, just because I don't know, like in my adolescence, like it's just like how I felt. But now as an adult, like if you care to ask, I hope you're ready to know because I'm going to share. And like I just don't care anymore. But I think it's I don't know. It's like kind of my armor. Like just not embarrassed to say it because like there's nothing embarrassing about it. And yeah, I think it's a good thing to, you know, share the reality of our lives with, people we care to know because like, hey, there's no reason to hide anything.
And these are the questions and the things we want to know, like when you're injured, when you're gonna try to start traveling and stuff. You know, that is what you want to know, and the questions you should be asking.
Yeah.
So, you know, like Erica said, she traveled right away and kind of just had to figure stuff out. Got lucky she was going, to a resort that was accessible, but like it's just sometimes the best thing is just to do it like that. But prep is always good, so
Yo,
get your
dude, there's this
research prep.
hotel in the Maldives. It's like 20,000 a night. They got like you sleep underwater, like surrounded by fish in this like little bungalow. I think I'll just plan my trip there. Hopefully, they should have me covered for 20K a night. If not, then we're gonna have a conversation.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
Well,
no, I agree. It's like all a learning experience, and I feel like that's kind of why I'm so transparent. Like, I feel like I'm not getting anything from gatekeeping anything, so I feel like why, like, if someone else learns from whatever I share, like, more power to them, and honestly, more power to me, because I feel like it's a community, and I feel like that's why I was like so engulfed by it too since the very beginning, just because I feel like that's we're just helping each other out, like why would I want to make someone else's life more difficult or gatekeep like secrets? Like, no, like this is by all means, like, and that's why I feel like the more we share the better, because we're all snowflakes, like none of us are exactly the same. So from what I take one from one person, someone else might take from another, or like, you might have to watch a couple of videos with different people in it to be like, oh, okay, like that worked for me, or like, so I do feel like it's sharing is like so essential in this community for sure.
yeah, and it's also generally how you get the best information too. It's like being willing to like share what's going on with you honestly and openly, because that's I don't know. I've seen a lot of people struggling when they maybe didn't need to because like they were just afraid to ask for help or afraid to ask questions. That might get them the information to help make whatever it is that they're struggling with easier. So It's like the same my dad always says, like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Don't
Yep.
be afraid to squeak. If it means getting like the help or what you need to function better in everyday life. There's, no shame, no, you should never feel anything like that. Be honest and sharing, especially with your peers and your people. Um, we are getting towards the end of the show here. A lot of awesome chats today. Want to just give another big shout out to everybody in the chat, everybody watching. We love you guys. Um, there's something. Oh, this is what I wanted to plug real quick. Just because, we're capitalistic monsters. Don't judge us. Just trying to make something out of this. Um, going. First of all, Erica, looking beautiful in that Live to Roll T-shirt. Thank you so much for repping the merch, the show. Uh, Anybody who is interested in supporting the show, wants to look cool, and some awesome tees, some comfy clothes. There's T-shirts, there's hats, there's hoodies, long sleeves. I think that is all still available, right, Shawn? Maybe
Yep.
not the hoodie.
Everything is in stock and available right now. Pretty much all the women's shirts, hoodies, beanies, hats. Yeah, pretty much everything. So you can go check
So
out the store.
go check out literal.com. That's a cool website. Sean just put a bunch of time and effort into making things a little bit smoother, more functional. Yeah, treat yourself. Go and get some awesome merch and, support some cool people along the way. We love you guys.
Heck yeah. Definitely support that. All right, so let's to finish up the show. Why don't we go to our go-to kind of ask our guest for any last advice or tips for anybody that might be planning to travel, maybe their first trip, anything like that, um, or just any other life advice is cool too. So, Erica, what do you got for?
I feel like being that I'm about to take another trip for a couple months, I feel like just go for it. Like honestly, I will say this about my disability, never have I ever have more time ever in my life. Prior to my injury, I was full-time student, full-time employee, full-time mom. Like it was just go 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 go, no breaks ever. I took maybe like one vacation a year, and I will say like this disability has given me more time, so I think that we should take advantage of it. And I'm not saying it has to be big, but honestly start off small. Like I've gone to San Diego or like LA for the weekend, or like and that's like an hour 2 hours away, but just to like get the feel of like staying in an Airbnb or staying in a hotel and like being outside of your home and just like packing for the first time, like it's so exciting. Like, and I do feel like maybe make it like a little goal, or if you feel that feels comfortable, then like okay, maybe next time we're going like Northern California or like a
Hmm.
different state, or maybe even internationally. But I will say like there are blessings that come with this disability, so I feel like take them, like take all the opportunities you can and every chance you get.
Beautiful advice.
That is
Awesome.
great.
I like that. I love that. Like I said the same thing to myself when I moved out. Like I'd always tell myself, like if I want to do something, I'd start to ask that question, like what if, this happens? Like maybe I shouldn't go because what if this happened? And I told myself, like anytime I say that to myself, like then I definitely got to do it. Like I just got to go for it. Like I gotta, stop asking myself those questions and like take those little risks. If something happens, just deal with it. But the important thing is you went for it, you tried, you pushed yourself, you had a new experience, and generally they end up positive. Especially if you prepare ahead of time. So I hope you guys found some useful advice on the show. Erica, thank you so much for disseminating so much positive and meaningful information, and being on the show and hanging out with us today. You are awesome.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And yo,
Yeah.
man, I'm sorry. Shawn is also looking beautiful in that literal gear. Uh, didn't mean to
uh,
leave you out there, buddy. You're always rocking it. Just had to uh,
uh,
kind of share the
no,
love.
it's all good, man. Yeah. But
But
thank you
Shawn
guys.
and Erica, both looking beautiful, both looking great. in that Live to Roll merch. I'm the only lame one. I got my Live to Roll hat on, but it's on backwards. So you guys are gonna have to put up with my hair for a second, and go check out that awesome Live to Roll merch.
Uh,
But yeah, Shawn, you're awesome, man. Thanks for putting this on today, buddy. Love you,
for
bro.
sure.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and
you.
any other questions, feel free to reach out. My Insta handle's on there. I am an open book. Like literally ask me anything, everything, whatever. Just like let me know you're coming from the channel so I know that you're not like a creepy guy or a creepy girl. So just let me know you're coming from the channel. Ask any questions away. Like I said, open book. Like I will if I have been through it or I have any type of knowledge on it, I will 100% share. So just like you said, the squeaky wheel's the one that gets the grease. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the
Um,
great things about our community. I think we're all pretty willing to share and help each other out and stuff, and sharing our experiences. So definitely reach out to all of us. Erica's information is in the description below, plus on the screen there. Find her on Instagram, and you guys know me and Tom are always here as well.
that's
And
right.
then I threw up the sponsor real quick. Just one last shout out to our sponsors, Mobility
We love our
Professionals,
sponsors, Mobility
Urology.
Pros, Urology
Uro-
Pros.
So yeah, thank you guys. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all the fans, everybody watching. So you guys are awesome. Thank you all, and Live to Roll. We'll see you guys next week.